Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Digital Virtualocity 2021. This next session is one that personally delights me. Banking, the concept of data and banking, something very close to our hearts. Before we get going, I'm just going to ask my guests just to quickly introduce themselves to the audience at stand. Antonio.
Well, my name is Antonio Carballido. I am the Global Head of Digital Sales and Optimization. And basically what I am doing is just trying to push the digital sales in terms of organization, martechs, and new capabilities.
Fantastic. Jezal.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessel Shah. I'm Head of Marketing Data Enablement at Barclays. Essentially, my role is working in marketing technology, leading on data, decisioning, and targeting projects.
So there you are, ladies and gentlemen. We've got two intimate specialists who really at the core of their roles is all about how to enhance that relationship between the bank, data, and consumers. An interesting point, and I'm going to start with you, Jezal. You know, banks have all of our data. In a recent survey, 67% of us suggested that we trust you with our data. But the world has moved on post-pandemic. Interest rates are dropping, and banks are feeling they're going to have to really offer something of value to consumers. My question is mobile phone insurance good enough? Or what can banks do to really get a better relationship with those consumers and offer them something of value? Jezal.
I think a key point for me is in demonstrating that banks know their customers, not just from a point of view of where they're transacting, what they're doing, what their account behavior is, but also understanding where they're at in their financial journey. Also understand how they're interacting with the bank, and most importantly, respecting the privacy choices that those customers have in this kind of post-GDPR world that we're operating, to ensure that there's a fine balance between how we are communicating, what we're communicating with them about, and on what basis.
Antonio, Jezal, made some really, good points there about pulling that sort of vortex of pushing components of regulation, trust, and really value. What do you think is the key to building that relationship between the consumer and the bank? And what experiences have you have of seeing that work better with these three opposing components working against each other?
Well, I think I always say that everything from my point of view is just a matter of communication. Banks know a lot of information about banks. The banks knew how to do this years ago very well. The manager of a branch know very well the customer. They know how they offer a personalized offer. But I think we need just to bring that from the past to the future and just bring to the area of the digital. And I think the key is how we are going to implement tools and how technology is going to help us. But I think, honestly, everything is a matter of communication, or how we communicate to the customer, as you shall say, how we communicate and put really value in our message.
And Jezal, I see you nodding vehemently. Antonio talked about that future of communication. What sort of form do you think that's going to take, Jezal? And when do you think consumers want to hear from their bank based on their interactions?
I think it probably depends on the audience you're talking to. Different people will have different preferences. I think it's important to be able to understand that, going back to knowing our customers, to be able to therefore then be able to engage in a way that is welcoming for them. I think the point that Antonio touched on was, the kind of the whole bringing the experience of the bank manager back into how we operate today. So a way that I like to kind of bring that into today is, thinking about our digital experience, thinking about when customers are engaging with our website. So if you put yourselves in the shoes of walking into a branch and your branch manager knowing you, they'd see you coming towards the front door. Perhaps there may be just there in the front of the branch, and they call you by your name, or they greet you because they know you. So if you're interacting with the digital estate, how can we deliver experiences where we can demonstrate that that we know that they're a customer that's returning to us based on the communication that we're delivering to them before they've even logged in, and how can we deliver some of that personalization to really start creating that feeling, that sentiment with our customers.
You know, Joe, I love that concept of personalization, and the journey of the bank managers a really interesting one. However, you know, bank managers traditionally only had tools from within the branch to offer consumers, you know, whether it be mortgage services, loan services, you know, saving accounts and so on. Antonio, the future feels like banks are going to try and pull in services from outside of their kind of core product offering. Do you have a view on what that's going to look like and how we're going to react to it?
Well, I think you say very well. No, now the environment is a little bit more complex. We are talking more about journey. We are talking about omnichannel. We are talking more complex communication and a different touch point. And that it could be something very technology, but honestly, I think it's true. It's just based in technology, but in terms of the change of the organization, it's a very big change because it means, like, for example, you are a structure, you have a very strong structure by products. Do you need to still keep being structured by product in your organization, or you have to be structured by needs, or you have to be structured by journeys? What is your vision? This is a matter of how to sell more product, or this is a matter of how to engage more with the customer. So I need to have a squad of engagement. And I think that is the transformation, the digital transformation. I think is that how you transform it, how you make the transformation of your organization to be more focused in this complex environment.
You know, I want to scratch in a little bit on that, Antonio. You talked about journeys, the journey that a consumer has with their financial service. Can you expand on what you mean by a journey and how you use it?
Well, I think a very good example of a journey is you as a customer, are you thinking to have a mortgage, or are you thinking to buy a house? When you are thinking to buy a house, maybe you want to explore in the market just to look for a house. Maybe you need an assistant. So on the journey, how we think is not going to start when you are just knocking our door just to ask for a mortgage. It's probably just help you and support you when you are looking a house, or how is the price of the house that I want to offer in the correct price, that the bank can help me just to give the best offer. How can I sell my house that I have already? Because I understand. So the journey is something when the customer have a need. So it's starting from the first moment that you have this think or this thought about to do that until you have the product. And the mortgage is only one part of the journey.
And Jezel, you know, I love this concept of kind of reaching tendrils out to talk about multiple interactions on a journey. But, you know, let's be honest, banking organizations are not new startups. You know, there's a lot of technology that sits inside these organizations across a lot of divisions. How do you make sense of all of that technology and all of those interactions to really focus in on that layer, that journey, putting the consumer at the forefront?
I think it's, you know, part of that assessment. It's really important to kind of take stock, understanding the system interactions, understanding where all the data is flowing, to really get a sense of your kind of base, your foundation, and then identify the gaps, understand where you want to go to. What are the kind of conversations you want to have? How do you want to have them? You know, what do you need to be able to have them? What data inputs do you need? And then therefore, when it comes to your technology choices and your technology stack, as it were, you know, what do you need to be able to deliver on that? So, you know, do you want to be having, you know, consistent conversations with your customers, no matter what touch point that you'll have with them? You know, what do you need to be able to deliver that? Do you want to, you touched on, you know, providing promotional offers that may not necessarily be from the bank. What technology infrastructure, what relationship infrastructure do you need to have in place to be able to deliver on that in terms of supplier relationships, etc. So I think it touches on a wide array of aspects to basically pull this thing together, depending on which direction, which aspect you're looking at it from a bank's perspective. And then I guess, yeah, planning the journey from there, really.
You know, Jezel talked, Antonio, about pulling the journey together. Complex when you've got not just multiple products, but multiple countries. multiple cultures, multiple different ways of interacting with that journey that you talked about. How have you as a business leader helped this journey, helped get other parts of your organization, maybe in Latin America, in Europe? Have you helped them understand how that can benefit them?
Well, that is a very good question, Lindsay. Let's try to just for the more basic, okay? Let's thinking about how the organization, when you are in the same country, how you organize is a little bit much more easy. What I think you need is just to have some technology. In our case, for our point of view, the CDP is just key, because I always say to the top management, when I have to explain what is a CDP, I say it's like the relevant information, the commercial information that I need to do in order just to have a conversation with the customer about their needs. What can I offer? What can I offer? So I think that's the key. Okay? When you are talking about just crossing information about country, then you need to have you have to be thinking about the regulation, about data, and then it's a little bit more complex. You can do things, yes, but at the moment, I think what we need to do is just focus in the first step versus in the second. Okay, just thinking more to give the best value in your country and then extend just cross country.
I love that concept of extracting the relevant data out of, that multi-country, multi-customer, multi-technology platform, just so you get the sort of key financial information that you need to share with those other organizations. Jezil, we talk a lot about lifestyle. We talk a lot about that kind of lifestyle services, and we see a lot of stories in the press about banks really helping you on your lifestyle and the relationship that you have with money. Talk to me a little bit about, do you think banks are doing a good job with offering services that are relevant to your lifestyle, or and if not, what do you think we can do better to make that lifestyle offer more pertinent and more sticky?
I think it's fair to say across the industry there are at varying levels offers being presented to customers related to lifestyle, promotional offers, not necessarily from the banks themselves but via partners. I think in terms of how can we potentially do that better as an industry, it's always going to come back to relevancy at a customer level, timeliness in terms of delivering that offer, anticipating the right time of delivering that offer, and in the context of, I guess, where you deliver that to as well. Having the data, having the means. So Antonio touched on one of the kind of ways to do that, which a lot of organizations are adopting, which is having an infrastructure like a customer data platform in place to enable you to deliver on that as well, in terms of understanding and orchestrating where to deliver those communications, and having the infrastructure in place to be able to consolidate the information needed to do that.
And Jezil, just digging in a little bit further, how do you think as a business, how do you think banking are getting on with that journey around offering the right kind of lifestyle to people as they go through their interactions with a financial services business?
In terms of the kinds of offers that are being presented to customers based on those lifestyles, the kind of communications, I think it's always going to come back to being able to leverage the right data to inform which offers you're going to be presenting, and ultimately hitting that relevancy aspect. I can't comment on the kind of wider organizations within the industry, but I think certainly in terms of being in a position to be able to deliver the right offers at the right time, I think is an area that needs to be probably improved upon across the industry. And the way to be able to do that is in part having the right technology infrastructure in place to be able to deliver on that.
It's such a right offer, right time, Antonio. It's so important to uptake. Let's talk about the different generations that we have to interact with as service providers within financial service. You have everything from students opening their first account, all the way to people preparing for some financial independence at the end of their professional career. We've talked about data, we've talked about CDPs. How different do you think the service needs to be across these different age groups? And what are you seeing people are more excited about across the different age groups?
Well, from my side, in this case, I will say we use something that it look a little bit curious for me, but the youngest people, the students who are opening an account, or in this case in Spain, they prefer to open in a branch versus to open digital. Okay, and there is a reason on that. Okay?
That's amazing, Antonio. You would think it'd be the other way around, right?
Well, I'm talking about the person who is opening the first account, and the main reason is because finance is a little bit complex sometimes to understand. Okay, this is something where the banks we need to even improve how we communicate the financial products. Okay, so they feel much more comfortable going to the branch and just talking with a manager than being with a digital. When you compare, for example, with people of 30 and 40, more or less our age, in that case, people is 100% digital. They prefer digital because for you, opening an account is not nothing new. It's something that you can do very, very easily, and it could be. This is for me is a very good example. Okay, and very good example of you not always have to be thinking that all the people, because it's younger, is going to be digital, and this is why in banks we need to combine very well the human and the digital. I think that's the key.
I love that concept of human and digital because it ties into that journey piece that we talked about earlier, Jezal. And Antonio, let's get multiple interactions across that relationship and use them to steer. Now, do you think people stay with the same bank? And do you think that initial meeting in branch, Jezal, where we're opening our student account, are banks interested in keeping those people under the same brand? And they interested in giving them a long journey throughout their entire career and onwards?
Absolutely. I mean, that's a key priority for if you talk to any bank, I think that you'll receive the same response. We are not in it from a short-term perspective. We are in it to grow that lifetime relationship, and this is where it comes back to that journey and communicating in the right things in the right way at the right time, because you may not necessarily the banking products will be at certain life stages, certain life events, certain trigger points, but you also want to be communicating with them and the engagement messages, along the journey, letting a bit like Antonio was saying earlier, letting the customers know that we're there, recreating that relationship, that bank manager and customer relationship, where they feel valued by the bank, and then along that journey, I think then comes those lifestyle opportunities as well, because it's the intervening periods as well as in parallel. So if you're communicating about certain product offers at life events or life stages, then you want to be able to continue that conversation. Now that conversation may be based on account behavior that you've seen. You want to help the customer and provide helpful tips potentially, but also you may want to be providing some value add through additional third-party offers or promotional offers. So I think the lifetime value and the lifetime relationship that banks hold with their customers is absolutely in the longer term, but I think it's going to be more and more in a combination of products and services provided by the banks, coupled with value-added services growing more and more to enable banks to sustain and continue those conversations.
Antonio, Jezal talks about this long relationship that we want to have with our financial our customers, and a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of energy is spent on keeping people engaged with you as a brand. I'm not going to ask you to talk about your own organization, but have you got any specific examples where you've seen the use of data, a relationship, and that journey to really communicate with people in a phenomenally advanced, interesting way?
Well, I think there is many cases, no, where the data and a good communication, when you combine both, you can have a better engagement with the customer. Well, right now, I don't know specifically any case. Well, I remember one case in Argentina, okay? This is in Argentina, years before. You know, they have what they name the corralito, the problem with the financial there in the bank. And I remember one person was saying that she put a lot of in value the bank, because the bank can offer a credit card just to buy some medicines when no one can offer this. In that moment, this is a combination of just give them the communication and the product in the correct moment that person was having just need. Okay, I think there is many cases when you are having a baby and the bank is just offering some insurance when you are thinking about your future. Many cases, okay, or when you have any specific problems and can just help just to support that problem, etc. So I don't know more specific case, but I'm sure it's a matter of time to think there will be many.
We're going to get onto the future in a minute, but I love that. I love that concept of picking moments. You know, both of Jezal and you talked about this, you know, picking moments in that life cycle of that relationship between the consumer and the bank, and making sure that you're relevant and timely with messaging, whether it's insurance because of childbirth or whether it's services to provide medicine. I think that's just a phenomenal point. Jezal, specifically, anything that you've seen, and again, it doesn't need to be from Barclays, but anything that you've seen in the industry that you've thought, wow, that's a really useful combination of journey and data and relationship.
I can't think of specific examples at this moment in time, but I think the ones that have really kind of appealed to me, certainly in my own experiences as a consumer, are experiences where, you know, the organization can see that I have you know, transacted in real time, and as a value add, instantly I'm getting a promotional offer to, you know, transact with them again. And you know, that organization may they could choose to treat that in two ways. They could choose to treat that based on what they know about me and my transaction behavior with them, that there's a good chance I might come back. So why are they going to give me a discount if I'm going to come back again anyway? However, you know, my own experience of that as a consumer is that actually they are providing me with, you know, a thank you. Yeah, thank you for transacting with us, and you know, here's a thank you. And actually, my perception of that organization, irrespective of what you know brand that is that I'm transacting with, is that one, you know, they're making decisions on and monitoring my transaction behavior with them in real time, in order to have been able to deliver me that discount. Number two is, as a consumer, I am you know, believing that the brand I'm engaging with is you know, is not just, you know, doesn't just want my money. They actually care that I'm a customer and want me to come back, and are prepared to offer me a discount in order for me to do so. So that would probably be my kind of best example of the kind of communications that I've received when transacting that actually make me think, yeah, you know what, yeah, I like that brand.
I'm going to touch on something which is probably a little bit unforgiving on this conversation. That's competition. You know, both of you work for very large established financial services businesses right across the globe. The challenger banks are coming along. They don't have the data, they don't have the relationship, but they do have the agility. How do you keep one step ahead of them, Antonio?
That is a very interesting question. Well, I think this is valid for banking and for any industry. I think there was a commercial here in Spain I really liked, where was saying basically the people come from the products and keep for the service. And that for me is really very good sentences. And I think that is valid for banking or for another industry. So it's a matter, you have a really interesting product, that's the key. And I think all the banks are sure competing for that. And the second is the most important, is the service. And in the service, it's about the support, it's about the communication, everything that we mentioned, the communication in the specific moment when you need, in the correct channel. I think that is for me, from my point of view, the service. And that is what will keep the customer with us and not with another competitor.
Jezil, a great point. Come for the product, stay for the service. How are you as a professional looking at challenger banks and focusing on constantly winning against them?
I think there's a couple of aspects to this. I think one aspect is, how do we work? Yeah. What enables those challenger banks and startups to be a lot more nimble? And I think it's fair to say that's twofold. One is processes and the way you work, which includes how can we operate in more and more of an agile fashion. The second one is it's highly likely that the smaller organizations, aside to the formal governance processes that you'll need to follow as a financial institution, the bit in between is the bit that really drives that efficiency, empowering decision making, and then I think the other aspect to this, which Antonio also touched on, is legacy. So banks have swathes of legacy systems, which often takes a very long time to improve upon and at times replace. So I think it's how can banks kind of continue working on that legacy infrastructure to get to a point where much like the challenger banks are that have set up in very new infrastructure using the kind of latest technologies. I think it's how do banks move closer and closer to that to be as nimble as they can be. So both kind of ways of working, process and underlying technology.
Just such great points, Antonio and Jezil. Get the right culture, get the right technologies, and make sure that you're picking standout technologies and not just ones that already perhaps remain in the library or are the go-to. Gentlemen, it's been a phenomenal conversation with both of you. I'd like to thank you on behalf of Telium for joining this panel, and I'd like to wish you both a fantastic day. Ladies and gentlemen, Antonio Calero and Jezil Shah, thank you.